I think that there was a sigh of relief. Not that we didn't know we could get it, but just now that it's locked in, now we can get to work and really concentrate on the things that we need to concentrate on, both to continue upward ascension in some areas and to improve in others.
Welcome, everybody, to the Takedown on SI. I am Zack Heydorn, and today with me, I've got the first ever AEW World Champion, the first ever undisputed World Champion, and now actor who's taking over the movie industry as well, Chris Jericho. Chris, what's going on? Good to have you on the show today.
Thanks, man. Just hanging out and ready to talk to wonderful people such as yourself today.
Very good, very good. Well, the movie, man, it's called Dark Match. You can see it on Shudder beginning on January 31st. So tell me a little bit about this thing. Your two characters, the one that you play in AEW right now and the one you play in this movie, aren't exactly parallels, but what do you pull from all your time as a pro wrestler when you go into a movie like this and try to play a completely different role and a completely different character?
Well, yeah, they're not the same characters or even close. And as a matter of fact, when this movie first was pitched to me, I'd had some hesitations about taking the part because
Hmm,
I am a wrestler. But this was so much deeper than that, to become, kind of playing this multi-layered character with all of these different issues and problems and, plans to, his whole overall plan is to take over the world and unleash Satan from hell, which in a nutshell, spoiler alert. But I mean, I think my biggest mission was to make people forget that it's Chris Jericho on screen, which I think as the movie goes on, we did a really good job of that.
yeah.
Because, I'm so connected with wrestling, but this is not really so much a wrestling movie as it is just a great horror movie with wrestling as a background. And once I kind of embraced that and figured that out, then I was able to kind of just go in a whole lot of different directions with this character I play, the Prophet.
Do you find that when you're acting, in a movie like this one or some of the other work that you've done out of the ring, do you find that, you can lean on, your experience as a wrestler, whether not so much obviously the physical in the ring stuff, but promos and character work and that kind of thing. Does it help you when you're acting?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been playing a character and acting for 34 years, right? So when you have a chance to do, and I've had a pretty good year with movies as far as I think there's four that I've done in the last, fiscal year that have been released. And, that's one thing that I've always loved about wrestling is you get a chance to play a character. So of course, when you branch out and to do other roles, it's very natural because you do learn. I say that like being a wrestler at the top levels, at the highest of levels, is like show business boot camp.
Sure, sure.
You learn a little bit about everything as far as how to be on camera, whether it's live or whether it's behind the scenes or whether it's, you're doing 10 takes of something. So you really do learn from that experience. But once again, it's a different world,
Yeah.
so you really have to go in a lot of ways from, enunciating to thousands of people in an arena to basically one person in your scene and the camera. And that is a whole different style of acting. So, all of those things help though. And I think being in this business for as long as I have, it's a real great foundation to take your acting skills to other places.
So you mentioned that, of course, the movie, like pro wrestling is like a backdrop for the movie. It's a foundation for the movie. Everything, the story revolves around it. But as you mentioned, it's more of a horror movie first, certainly. Um, did the director and the crew lean on you for, any of the pro wrestling backdrop that you guys tried to paint throughout that? Like as being like the big wrestler on the set, were you leaned on for that type of thing?
I mean, not so much. I mean, the biggest thing that I had my hesitation about the movies, usually wrestling movies aren't very good. You'll get your, wrestlers versus zombies type of a thing, and it's very campy, or they're ready to rumble where it's very, humor based. It's hard to really locked down pro wrestling as an art form. And Lowell Dean, who's the director and the writer of the movie, I thought he did a great job of really capturing it. He did a lot of research and he really did his homework on it. So I do have an EP credit, executive producer, to help them with some of the wrestling kind of holes that they had, but there wasn't many. Lowell had
Hmm.
done a great job of kind of, like I said, of looking through the background and really nailing some of these things to where, I mean, this is how I started my career was getting in a van and traveling, 250
Right.
kilometers with no services to remote rural areas to do a show. I never had to face a satanic cult along the way, but there sure was a lot of that style of camaraderie and those trials and tribulations that you faced, that I faced in the same way that the wrestling company does. So there was a lot of kind of method that I could bring to it and experience I could bring to it, but there wasn't a lot needed because they had done a real good job, like I said, of doing their homework in pre-production.
So the movie's Dark Match, it's streaming on Shudder on January 31st. Make sure you guys are checking this out. Chris, I got to ask a couple of AEW questions here. You guys really are starting the year hot. You got uh, the shows on Max now. How big of an impact do you expect that AEW being on a streaming platform to have for you as a talent, but also for the company to have moving forward?
Well, it's kind of the way of the future. I think as the years go on, and there won't be too many of them, I think cable television as a whole will fairly probably pretty much go away at some point because there is so much emphasis on streaming. Just the quality of the picture, the fact you can watch it whenever you want to. All of those things are such a positive. So even though we have such a great relationship with Warner Brothers and TNT and TBS, I think it's very important that we were able to move on to Max. And like I said, I've watched the last few Collision shows that I was on Max.
Yeah.
Whereas before you would, have to DVR it or whatever it may be. But now, if I'm out and I get home at 1 in the morning and I want to watch it, I can go put it on. So I think it makes a really big deal. It makes a real big difference for us to be included on Max. And like I said, I expect a lot more involvement with Max and many other streaming platforms in the years to come.
Do you think you guys have to, as a as a product, do you account for the fact that you're reaching potentially new eyeballs that you've never reached before? Like, do you have to kind of change and pivot what you do, taking that into account, or not so much? You just do your thing and that's that.
I mean, I think as a company, it's kind of been sort of business as usual. As an individual, as a performer, I always try and up the ante, so to speak. Even if we weren't on Max, it is a new year, and every time I find that we get to January, I always try and really focus in on what I'm doing and try and make it very impactful, make it a little bit different, maybe from what I was doing before, and just continue to keep the quality level high. That's something I take great pride in, whether it's
Mhm.
in the ring or putting together the storylines behind the scenes, and kind of working on the different characters that are going to be working against each other. All that stuff means a lot, and I find at the beginning of the year, you really want that to be something memorable and something, special.
How do you guys, when you're you guys have a wonderful television deal right now, like you mentioned with Warner Brothers, and you've got the Max stuff, and Tony and everybody in the company was chasing like that television deal
Right.
for a while. Now that it's set, is there a pressure off the shoulders? Like, is it okay, we're here, we can take a deep breath now? Like, how does the mindset from the talent and Tony change, when now that you've got that bag secured?
Well, I mean, I think there's always a little bit of a relief due to the fact that, there's the whole business is based on television revenue nowadays. I mean, before it
Right.
was pay-per-view and it was live attendance and it was all that sort of thing. And now it solely rests on the television deal you can get. And, we've had ups and downs as far as ratings and demos, but we still always do really, really well on cable. We're still, if we're not number one or two, we're in the top five and at the very least the top 10. And that's out of thousands of shows. So, like I said, sometimes ratings are more than others, but it's always very, good ratings in comparison to what other shows are drawing. So it's a very valuable property. And I think we all knew that within AEW, and anybody that Tony surrounds himself with. But there's a lot of pundits and critics and know-it-alls that still to this day don't see how valuable AEW is and believe how profitable and how much it's growing with such a huge television deal, $185 million a year. I mean, dude, that's next level. That's pretty much 4 times what we were getting. So
Hmm.
um I think that there was a sigh of relief. Not that we didn't know we could get it, but just now that it's locked in, now we can get to work and really concentrate on the things that we need to concentrate on, both to continue upward ascension in some areas and to improve in others.
One more AW question here, then a quick dark match point, and then I know you gotta hit the road. There's some reports and rumors that dropped today about Britt Baker's status in AEW. Can you comment on what her position is right now, and is there anything that wrestling fans need to know about whether or not she'll be on AEW TV any longer?
I mean, you'd have to ask Britt that. I haven't really heard either way, but I know she's obviously a very valuable part of the company. She's one of the OGs, probably one of our first homegrown stars. And I think she does a great job whenever she's in the ring. So I don't see her leaving or going anywhere. And I'm looking forward to having her come back on the show because she has a great character and a great presence. And once again, a great fan base within AEW and within the wrestling world.
Very good. All right, guys. The movie's called Dark Match. You can watch it on Shudder, and that comes out January 31st, so just a feew days here. Chris, why will pro wrestling fans A, love this movie, and B, love seeing you in it?
Well, once again, I don't think we made the movie for wrestling fans per se. I think we made the movie just for people who enjoy a good tale with a lot of good twists. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to put this on and watch wrestling matches. It is like I
Right.
said, wrestling based. And I think people that enjoy wrestling, horror, good movies, action, fun will dig this film. And anybody that knows me knows I don't do anything half-ass, and I don't do anything that I don't believe in. I came into this movie because I was a big fan of a film called Wolf Cop that Lowell
Hmm.
Dean had done. And I thought this movie could be uh, a better version, and it's even way better than I thought. It turned out so well. And every time I've watched it in the theater, just hearing the reactions of all the people that come to check it out with us, oohing and awing at some of the kills. It's very gory in the best possible way. There's
Yeah.
some great laughs in it as well. So I think it's a lot of fun. And I think anybody that enjoys seeing a fun movie, whether you like any or all of the elements that we just described, is going to dig this film for sure.
Yeah, I had some family watch this with me, and they're not wrestling fans, and they did enjoy
Yeah.
it. So highly recommend as well. Once again, it's called Dark Match. You can watch it on January 31st on Shudder. Written and directed by Lowell Dean and starring Chris Jericho. Chris, thank you so much for your time, man. Good luck with the rest of 2025. Looking forward to seeing what you do, and appreciate you joining today.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it, Zach, and we'll talk to you next time.